We are now going to address the issue of the often frosty relationship between Musalia Mudavadi, Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi, and Cyrus Shaharha Ohwa Jirongo. Sincerely speaking, they were two sides of a coin. They were rarely on the same side. A lot of things have got to do with that. One is the upbringing, one is the characteristic, and so on and so forth. So we are going to look holistically at the two and understand why they were never on the same page. First of all, being born and being brought up. We are of the same age. Musalia is a few months older than Shaharha, and Shaharha is a few months older than me. So we were all born within 1 year. Uh, Shaharha was born from a one thing you may have noticed is that there is no time Shaharha ever referred to Musalia as Mudavadi. He used to refer to him as Musalia. Of course, uh, age mates call themselves through the first name, isn't it? But if you come from the same area, you call yourself by your traditional name. Your traditional name. So I don't remember there is any time when Shaharha ever referred to Musalia as Mudavadi. He always referred to him as Musalia. Now they are being born. Shaharha was born from a squatter family, a family that had moved from Kaimosi, that is in Vihiga, to Lumakanda settlement scheme. Musalia was born of a prince. He was born of a prince for the simple reason that when he was born, his father was a provincial education officer of the biggest province, Rift Valley province. Today, the PEO, provincial education officer, today is referred to as provincial director of education. As he was growing up, his father was a very close person to the then Vice President, Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. Throughout his life, Musalia has been treating Moi as his maternal uncle. So, if you look at somebody who was born a son of a provincial director of education, if you look at somebody who considered the vice president or the deputy head of the state to be his maternal uncle, and then on the other side you consider somebody who was born in a settlement scheme as a squatter, then you will come to realize that they were born over different times. 1978, is it 1978? Yeah. Or I can say that by the time Jirongo was joining Form 1, Musalia was doing his Form 6. That is how it is. You'll find that Jirongo was born when he used to miss school fees and so on and so forth. But Musalia never lacked what he wanted. That is how far they were. Jirongo is a self-made person. Musalia, if the father would not have been what the father was, I don't know whether Musalia would have been known. They came to national prominence at the same time. They came to national prominence at the same time. Musalia became known nationally in 1989 upon the death of his father. Jirongo came up in 1992, 3 years later. So they came to national prominence around the same time. Musalia, first of all, was given a department which was passed off as a ministry. He was given a department called the Ministry of Supplies. That is a department within the Ministry of Commerce. But since he was a young boy and very inexperienced, and Moi wanted to make him a minister. Moi wanted to make him a minister, and Moi did not want. Moi wanted to make him a minister, and Moi did not want to give him a big ministry for him to spoil. Now fast forward to 1992. 5 young men, 4 of whom were Kalenjins, met in a hotel in Nairobi, and the idea of YK92 came up. But the 5 of them decided to expand the YK92 to the initial 23. And among the 23 was, now that is now the time when Jirongo joined YK92. And because of what he had been known through former provincial commissioner Fred Waiganjo, it was felt that he leads. You see the 5, 4 of them were Kalenjins and one was Abukusu. So if they were to show their faces, it would have been seen as a Kalenjin thing. So that is how it was mutually agreed that as it expands, the face of the organization and the person who can run the organization well was Jirongo. So if the 5 people would not have met, but let me start talking from afar. If it were not for Fred Waiganjo, who discovered a con man who used to do ABCD, Jirongo would not have been known. And subsequent to that, if the 5 people would not have agreed that Jirongo be the YK92 fellow, it would not, Jirongo never have been known. And the rest, as they say, it is history. So when the YK92 was formed, it was formed, as I said before in my first video following his death, is that any new generation, young people are usually anti-government. In any new general election, young people are the majority. So YK92 was formed with a single purpose of joining up all the young people, having them vote, not only them registering as a voters, but second, they vote. And third and most importantly, is that they vote for a particular way. Just like today, if you can convince the Gen Z to vote in one way or the other, the whichever side the Gen Z will vote for will happen. Every time there are young people to come, there are young people to come. So that was our time in 1992. That is when we were young people. So that is how Jirongo came into prominence. And whenever somebody, we have a saying or we have a belief that in Kenya, let no politician promise you something before election. Politician to tell you that when I'm elected, I'll do this and this to you. No. After the voting day, the following day, whether your candidate won or lost, your case is gone. So it is advisable that if you want to milk a candidate, milk that candidate before the voting day. If the candidate fails, if you meet him or her, he or she will tell you that you see, I didn't make it, or he or she will even blame you mlikuwa mnanidanganya mimi ni popular, kumbe mnakula pesa zangu. So you'll find that if you want to get anything from a politician, do it before the election day. And if the candidate is elected and you go to demand what you wanted, he or she will say, give me time to recoup up the money for the money because I spent a lot. So whether your candidate wins or loses, expect if you have not gotten something before the voting day, then chances of you getting something are almost zero. So what happened was that Jirongo, and we have to thank him. He was thinking ahead of his time. He sat down with President Moi and told President Moi that the plans are this. The plans are this, that you have surrounded yourself with elder people. We want, once you are re-elected, you start grooming young people. You see, the constitution today has it that you have to have a running mate for both the president and the governor. But those days, Moi, first of all, that thing was made because Moi was very clever. He would go around the country, the 8 provinces, and promise 8 people that regional leaders, make sure I am elected and I'll make you the vice president. That is why the constitution came up that you must name your running mate. So YK92 and Jirongo believed that once Moi has been re-elected in 1992, then he replaces a lot of elderly people with young people. The YK92 looked around for somebody of their age who could be the vice president, and they came up to a conclusion that the best fitting person was Musalia Mudavadi. Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi. They came up to the conclusion that Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi. It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with Musalia and Jirongo being from Vihiga. No, it is just that the whole YK92 said that the next generation which was to take over from Moi was that one, and the best placed person was Musalia. The fact that Musalia and Jirongo were from Vihiga, that was purely coincidental. So the elections came, and before the general elections were held, the elderly people knew that these young men and women, if they succeeded in convincing the president, then they would be pulled out. So there was a collection of elderly people like Professor Saitoti, elderly people like what do you call JJ Kamodo. They were unhappy with the YK92. They were unhappy with the YK92, and they really tried to make sure that Moi uh, uh, had separated from them. But Moi knew that you have to take a step not to lose a voting block. So he sided with his heart. Moi's heart was with the YK92, but his brain was with the elderly people. So what he did, he ignored the elderly people until after the election, when he now went back to the elderly people, and he saw there was no need of the YK92. YK92 had identified Musalia as the best person. YK92 collectively and individually suffered a lot because they associated themselves with Musalia Mudavadi. But once the 1992 elections were held, Musalia Mudavadi, because of several reasons, one reason why Musalia Mudavadi did what he did was by nature, he's a Kibaki. He's a Kibaki, and Kibaki people are people like Kalonzo Musyoka, diplomatic politicians. Another thing with Musalia had to do with he considered Moi as his mjomba. He considered Moi as his maternal uncle. So what he did was he did not want to disappoint Moi. He did not want to disappoint Moi. So when the YK92 were pushing for Musalia to be the vice president, and when YK92 was suffering, not because of themselves or anything, they suffered a lot of things. They were denied. They were even promised that they would start a company. What Moi wanted to do, and maybe that is what Ruto is now doing. What Moi wanted to do was to sell the parastatals, and he agreed with them that after the 1992 general elections, the YK92 would start a company which would buy most, if not all, parastatals. So what happened is that the YK92 were denied the chance to buy parastatals. The YK92 were denied state positions and whatever. And the YK92 suffered a lot because they sided with Musalia. And what's more, when Moi was re-elected and he became the president again, he sided with the elderly people, as I've just said. And what Jirongo expected, and even me and you would expect, was that at least Musalia would have gone up and tried to even show a protest note that these people assisted Moi to be re-elected. Why are you doing that? But Musalia, what he did was after the 1992 elections were held, Musalia behaved as if he did not even know about YK92. Jirongo, if you know him or if you knew him, Jirongo had two things. One, Jirongo is somebody who believed in your word. If you made a promise and anything, you just fulfill it. That is what Jirongo had. Another thing is Jirongo was emotional. Jirongo was emotional, especially to Musalia, because here we are suffering because of you. We are suffering because of you. And then even when we are suffering, you have jumped the ladder and arrived there. And when somebody else has removed the ladder, instead of even saying, but these people, no, you behave as if we did not exist. My viewer, that is today's discussion on how these two people were never on good terms. Musalia, just like Kibaki, and to some extent, I want also to believe that Kalonzo Musyoka also is in that field. These are the people, diplomatic, yes, and they are very good in performing their offices and whatever. But these are the people whom you risk your life at your own, so that should they be in a better position, they do not even remember you. The good thing about Jirongo, when it came to politics, I'm not talking about non-political issues. When it became to politics, he would always want those people who risk their lives for the cause to be remembered. So that is what we discussed today, the genesis, and now we have seen the whole story, eh? The genesis of how these people grew up in different environments, how their temperamentals are, and why they were never on good terms. I remember during the March 2002, there was a problem concerning who are the people who will become the vice chair of KANU. Moi had started a system where he promised a lot of people, as I've just said, and he would not want to show people who he was for. That is why, when the time came, he decided that there were going to be 4 positions of vice chair. When it became the chance of having a vice chair, before Moi split it into 4, just like Raila did the other day, the position of deputy party leader used to be 1, but Moi Nani Agwambo made them 2, and even after his death, I think they are 3. This is to take care of different groups and different interests. So, when it was seen that Musalia may not be made the deputy leader of KANU, uh, Jirongo was not happy. Jirongo was not happy, and Jirongo now offered himself, because he was a go-getter. He offered himself to be the deputy KANU leader. When he offered himself to be the deputy KANU leader, that is when Moi now split the position of deputy KANU leader into 4. I cannot recall all of them, but I think there was Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, there was Musalia, could Kalonzo be the other one? And then there was another 4th one. I'll comment that in the comment. So when he had offered that way, that is when the positions were expanded to be 4, and then Musalia wanted to go back, but Jirongo stuck, but at long last he left it for Musalia. Thank you. Have a nice time.